Hey, crime connoisseurs. If you're like me, you love diving into a good book. I especially love finding a book about cases we cover. But sometimes it's hard to find the time to sit and read. We live in an on-the-go society. Thankfully, Audible makes it easy to instantly access the books we love without sacrificing our time. With over 180,000 audiobooks and more, you will undoubtedly find one that will grip you and leave you not wanting to pull away while still being able to do other things. You can get a free 30-day trial membership by going to audibletrial.com/ccpod to start listening to your favorite books. That's audibletrial.com/ccpod for your free 30-day trial membership. Welcome back, crime connoisseurs. I'm your host, Grace D. Today, we'll be covering a case that has baffled a community near my hometown for over 3 decades. In 1991, an 11-year-old boy who's affectionately described as a Curious George went to check out a brush fire in the nearby marsh from his house. Several people saw him on his way back home, except he never made it home, and he has never been seen again. This is the case of Mark Himebaugh. Maureen and Jody Himebaugh moved to Delhaven, New Jersey in 1976, and 2 years later, Maureen gave birth to their first son, Matthew, in 1978. 2 years after that, Maureen and Jody welcomed another son, Mark, on May 23, 1980. Maureen and Jody had troubles within their marriage. Jody constantly bounced from job to job, causing the family to experience financial issues. Maureen had to work as a waitress and clean houses to pay the bills and raise their children. Jody allegedly spent more time on hobbies such as his boat and pop-up camper, while Maureen worked to support them. Jody and Maureen ended up separating in May of 1991. This caused some hard times for the family. Jody moved into a second-floor apartment in Cape May on the Washington Street Mall. Matthew spent a lot of time with Jody, but Mark would often stay with Maureen. Mark visited Jody's with Matthew a few times for a weekend visit. The weekend before Thanksgiving was one of those times. While Mark and Matthew never told Maureen anything unusual happened, a moment she witnessed stood out to her. When Jody dropped off the boys, he gave Mark this big embrace. This wasn't like Jody, especially not with Mark. He wasn't as patient with him. Mark loved animals, adored nature, enjoyed building things, and loved the Delaware Bay. Mark shared a great bond with his mom as he grew older, and his kindness to others stood out. But Mark didn't like change. Unlike your typical young boys, he also didn't like to be dirty or have a mess around him. He especially didn't like anything on his face, leaving him feeling dirty. The only exception to this was Halloween. He allowed his parents to paint on his face for Halloween, but as soon as they came home from trick-or-treating, Mark immediately wanted his face wiped off and cleaned. On Halloween, Jody teased Mark about this and tried to have him leave the stuff on his face, but Mark kept going to Maureen for her to clean his face. Mark was a good and kind kid. He would have his moments like all of us, but sometimes his reactions were questionable. If Mark was playing a video game and messed up, he would throw the controller in a fit of rage. If he was writing and his handwriting wasn't neat enough, Mark would get so upset that he would rip up his papers and start over from scratch. In October of 1986, while Mark was in first grade, teachers noticed how Mark had disruptive behaviors during class, and his success and participation were sporadic. it was suggested that Mark have an interview with the child study team. Maureen interviewed with the child study team and admitted that Mark could be a problem when he was frustrated with himself during a project or an activity that he was working on. Maureen told them that Mark had this perfectionistic personality, and when things were good, his mood was good. But when things didn't go his way, he displayed fits of outbursts and anger. When he is having a tantrum, he is challenging to control. Otherwise, he's an easily managed child. In describing her husband to the child study team, Maureen said that Jody was highly intelligent and generally well-liked by others. However, she said he did have this perfectionistic personality, just like their son Mark. Jody would get frustrated easily if things didn't go as planned. Maureen told the child study team that her husband used the same tactics in raising Matthew and Mark that were used in raising him as a child. She said that she thinks that Jody is effective in his methods of raising the two boys, which included a very disciplined manner where he was extremely strict with them. At the time of the interview, Jody was working for the county of Cape May. In December 1986, the child study team had Mark evaluated by a learning consultant. Mark's teacher reported ongoing inappropriate behavior that included Mark singing and humming during class, tearing his papers up, and generally being disruptive in class. The teacher also noted that there were times when Mark was cooperative and participated in class, and they did see improvement in him. Mark was at the top of his reading group as one of his strengths, and he had good math skills. However, Mark had trouble with his attention span, which varied from task to task, and he would get angry at himself when he had issues with his work. Mark felt that he needed to produce neat and precise work every time. Whenever it didn't meet his satisfaction, he would become angry and frustrated with the task. Mark was at an acceptable level of maturity, had good attendance, and had good peer relationships for the most part. But there were other times when Mark was frustrated and would not get along with others in class. At the end of his kindergarten year, the teacher noted that they had an exceedingly difficult time dealing with Mark, even though they acknowledged that he was very bright and intelligent. They reported that he had a hard time with his behavior. When his work was not up to his satisfaction, Mark would not complete assignments and become very moody, stubborn, and resistant to direction from the teacher. The learning consultant concluded that none of Mark's behavioral issues were related to learning disabilities. The consultant noted that in-school counseling benefited Mark's behavior, which should continue until further problems arise. In March 1988, the child study team scheduled a neurological evaluation for Mark, which took place at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, locally known as CHOP. This was a direct result of his behavior in class. The exam noted that Mark was right-handed, 7 years old, weighed 60 pounds, and was 4 foot tall. Initially, Mark was cooperative and quiet during the examination. The conclusion was that Mark had no neurological disorders or developmental lag that contributed to his behavior in school. It was suggested by the doctors on the neurology team that Mark should complete a psychiatric evaluation to determine his mental and physical status regarding his behavior. Maureen and Jody agreed with this conclusion and scheduled the exam. In May of 1988, Mark underwent a psychiatric exam at CHOP. The doctors concluded, quote, Mark had an adjustment disorder with mixed disturbance of emotions and conduct, as well as bedwetting issues, end quote. The staff recommended the following actions. 1. Classification as emotionally disturbed. 2. Educational placement as determined by academic needs. Consider a structured environment with appropriate expectations, then clear, consistently enforced limits. 3. Coordinate a behavioral modification regimen between home and school personnel. 4. Guidance and counseling for Jody and Maureen. 5. Psychiatric treatment for Mark. The child study team conducted an annual review of Mark's progress and concluded that Mark's best chance of success would be in a resource room with a one-on-one aide, but he should remain in mainstream learning. In March of 1989, the child study team received a letter from Mark's guidance counselor, who saw Mark twice weekly. The counselor noted that Mark was severely depressed and that his depression was expressed in angry and hostile behavior towards himself, his environment, and others. He overturned desks in his classroom, hit his mother, broke pencils and threw them at children's faces, and ripped his clothing. These were not isolated incidences. They added that he confided in his mother that he wanted to kill himself. The guidance counselor said Mark showed symptoms of obsessive-compulsive disorder. They said he was a perfectionist who would tear things up and throw away all of his school papers if he had not written them satisfactorily. His standards were higher than the teacher's. Mark would leave his reading group if he was given a word he didn't know. If he thought he gave a wrong answer, he ripped up his paper before the teacher could check it. When Mark was running in a race and he felt like he wasn't running as fast as he should, he would quit. This need for control, order, and perfection also showed up outside of school settings. In March 1989, Mark underwent a second psychiatric exam based on the referral from the child study team. The attending psychiatrist noted that Mark had become increasingly difficult to handle at school and home. Mark's erratic behavior had been observed by his mother even as an infant, yet it really began to manifest itself in kindergarten and became such a problem that it had to be addressed by the school system in first grade. At that time, the child study team conducted a series of evaluations and tests to help determine the cause of Mark Himebaugh's behavior. The family had been traveling to Voorhees, New Jersey for counseling sessions, and Jody complained about spending large sums of money for the therapy. When the Special Services School District was recommended to Maureen and Jody in the previous year, Maureen was hesitant because of the negative perception of attending a special services school. However, trying to help him with his homework had been rough on her, and she was having second thoughts. The examiner noted no evidence of psychotic symptoms such as hallucinations, delusions, or ideas of reference. Mark was unhappy and displeased about his extreme swings of emotion. The examiner concluded that they would continue to classify Mark as emotionally disturbed. They also noted that he would do best in a setting with more individualized attention and would benefit from placement in Ocean Academy. Individual therapy was also strongly recommended for him. In May of 1989, after 4 more weeks of exams, Maureen said that the only thing that was determined was that he was officially diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder. Due to wide fluctuations in Mark's behavior, he required significant individual supervision from his parents and staff. His perfectionistic behaviors also included rituals that were characteristics typically seen in children diagnosed with OCD. Given this information, Mark would require a behaviorally oriented treatment program on top of family therapy. In the fall of 1989, following the extensive examination of Mark at CHOP, he was transferred from the Middle Township School District to Ocean Academy within the Special Services School District. Initially, Mark was not happy about the transfer. He expressed this by acting out and doing things such as rolling under the tires of a mail truck and throwing himself on the ground in front of a moped. Therapist notes indicated that there wasn't enough information about each incident to determine whether they were suicidal tendencies or risk-taking adventurous maneuvers on Mark's part. Mark was put on medication to aid in his OCD. Between the therapy and medication, Mark's behavior started to improve. On Monday, November 25th, 1991, Mark had gotten home from school around 2:30 p.m. Mark noticed his mom's car wasn't in the driveway when he entered the house. He went to his room and neatly put away his backpack and new shoes. He put on an old pair of LA Gear sneakers that used to be his older brother Matthew's. These were more comfortable on Mark recently since he had just gotten a cast off of his left foot that he had broken on the monkey bars just 6 weeks prior. Mark sat on the couch in the living room and turned on the TV. After a couple of minutes, the front door opened, and it was Maureen carrying in grocery bags. She told Mark she was glad he was there, that there were a few more bags in motion towards the car. Mark hopped up and helped Maureen with the groceries. Given that it was 3 days before Thanksgiving and down the shore, temperatures get frigid, especially at night. Mark got the remaining ShopRite bags from the car, and he asked his mom as he was coming back inside if they should get a fire going for the night. Maureen told him they were going to Mrs. Kubiak's house, his favorite teacher. Mark was excited about the holiday, and Maureen's birthday was the next day, which he was also looking forward to. He got his mom a gift that he couldn't wait to give her. While Maureen was making the boys' favorite dinner, chicken and mashed potatoes, Sunray Road had an unusual amount of traffic. She looked out the window and noticed the billowing smoke across the way. Mark saw it too. There was a brush fire on the marsh. He asked Maureen if he could go check out the fire. He loved exploring the beach and the marsh near their home. Maureen agreed to let Mark check out the fire, especially since it was right down the street. Mark got on his jacket and made his way out the door. As Mark walked down the driveway, Maureen received a call from her neighbor, Ann Woolery. Her car was in the shop and ready to be picked up, and her husband wouldn't be home until after they closed. She asked Maureen if she could take her to pick it up. Maureen agreed. She figured it was 5 minutes away, 10 at most, so no worries. Plus, her mom lived next door, so the boys would be okay. Maureen went outside to catch up with Mark, who was near his grandmother's house now. And she told him that she was taking Ann to get her car and for him to come right back after he was done. He said, "Okay, Mom," and continued to the fire. Typically, Mark would have gone with Maureen, but he stayed behind because he wanted to see the fire. Mark was wearing a blue sweatshirt, gray pants, a gray jacket, and white LA Gear sneakers. Mark walked down his street on Sunray Road onto Delaware Avenue, which ran parallel to Sunray Beach on the Delaware Bay. The brush fire broke out in a marsh near the Himebaugh residence in Delhaven, just steps from the beach. Heavy smoke was coming from the south of Sunray Beach, with people from the neighborhood gathering around. As the firefighters struggled to put out the brush fire, the adventurous 11-year-old was more excited than most to see the action. Because of the fire, Bayshore Road, a main road between Delhaven and Lower Township, was shut down for 2 to 3 hours, causing traffic to be rerouted through the Himebaugh neighborhood, and a lot more traffic than usual had to come through there due to the detour. Maureen didn't realize that her seamlessly quick drive, which should have taken her 10-15 minutes tops, now caused her trip to become 30 to 45 minutes. When Maureen finally got home, Mark wasn't there. She waited a little bit, thinking he still might be exploring, but as time passed, she grew concerned. She started calling all his friends, but no one had seen or heard from him. Now it's even later, and Maureen called 911 around 5 p.m. to report her son missing. The authorities conducted an extensive search, which included canine units, a massive amount of volunteers from the community, helicopters, police, and the fire department. It was a bitterly cold night, and at first police thought maybe Mark had gotten lost in the marsh, or worse, possibly drowned in the nearby surf. Runaway calls were also very common in Middle Township and Cape May County at this time. Abductions were very, very rare, so the police treated this case as a missing persons case, who got lost or wandered off. Mark was happy and cheery and gave no sign of running away. More than 7 bloodhounds from the Cape May County Canine Unit were used in the search. 2 U.S. Coast Guard helicopters were brought in to aid in the search from the sky and with their infrared cameras and spotlights. At 9:30 p.m., there was a break in the case. A firefighter found a white sneaker on Sunray Beach, approximately 75 yards from his house, the day he disappeared. It was a white LA Gear sneaker. There were footprints clear in the sand showing 2 shoe treads up to the sneaker. But after the sneaker, it was 1 footprint and 1 shoe tread, until they disappeared in the soft sand. The firefighters had hoped that they would find Mark nearby in the dunes since they found the sneaker. The canines were brought to the sneaker's location to continue the search. One of Mark's teddy bears was used for his scent. The dogs tracked the scent until they reached Roosevelt Boulevard, about a half-mile north of where they found the shoe. It was as if a vehicle was waiting because the dogs lost the scent after that. The area where the shoe was found was never taped off, especially given that this case was treated as a missing persons case. The footprints in the sand indicated a walking pattern, not like Mark was running away. With the shoe on the beach, police wondered if Mark slipped out of it and just kept going. Did he take it off, or was it placed there to throw the investigation? When the police brought Maureen the sneaker, it was late at night, but she had hoped that they would find him since they found that. So many people touched the sneaker, from police to firefighters to Maureen and Matthew. Matthew showed the police how he knew the sneaker was one of the ones that Mark was wearing. The next day, police did traffic stops during the search for Mark on Bayshore Avenue. By 2 p.m., a door-to-door search was conducted by authorities who concentrated on vacant homes. With no luck finding Mark, authorities came to the horrifying realization that Mark had likely been abducted. While addressing the press, former Middle Township Police Chief Raymond Saunders stated, quote, "We've been out searching for about 20 hours or more. All of the areas have been covered at least twice, and our aerial search has been done over and over and over again. If Himebaugh was in this area, I believe we would have found him." End quote. They started to believe that if Mark was abducted, it was by someone in the crowd that came to watch the fire or in the traffic that had been detoured by Mark's house because of the fire, especially after witnesses saw a man in a car talking to Mark. Multiple people were questioned, including Mark's father, Jody, who raised suspicions by going to work while others searched for his son. But he had an alibi and was ruled out. Uncover the secrets of your dog's DNA with Wisdom Panel, the world's leading canine genetics test. With a simple cheek swab, Wisdom Panel can reveal your dog's breed, ancestry, health traits, and so much more. Understanding your dog's genetic background can help you provide the best care possible. Whether it's identifying potential health risks, understanding their behavior, or simply satisfying your curiosity about your dog's unique heritage, Wisdom Panel delivers the insights you need. Their state-of-the-art technology analyzes over 350 breeds, types, and varieties, and screens for over 200 genetic health conditions. Plus, their easy-to-understand reports make it simple to learn about your dog's genetics. Join the millions of pet parents discovering their dog's story with Wisdom Panel. Order your kit today and start exploring your dog's DNA. Because every dog has a tale, and Wisdom Panel helps you tell it. Go to wisdompanel.pxf.io/ccpod to learn more about your four-legged friend. That's wisdompanel.pxf.io/ccpod. A park guard reported seeing Mark outside of the park with an unidentified girl around 3:40 p.m., a half mile in the opposite direction of where Mark's shoe was found. It didn't make sense with the shoe being where it was. The park guard never said anything about Mark missing a shoe, which would stand out. The police worked with the park guard to sketch the girl seen with Mark, hoping to identify her. Given the sketch, it was equally strange that the girl had never been identified. You may be asking why this is strange. You see, Delhaven is such a small community that it had maybe 1,000 residents who lived there all year long. This area in South Jersey is known as the Summertown area, so fewer people live there during the off-season. So the fact that this girl has never been identified means she was not from the area. No one knew who she was. And this was alarming for investigators. They believed that maybe she was used to lure Mark. 4 teens were walking from the street and onto the beach to check out the fire when they saw Mark walking off the beach towards Delaware Avenue. They confirmed that when they saw Mark, he was by himself in a happy-go-lucky mood. They teased him about starting the fire, even though they knew he didn't, joking about it, and then continued on. Mark continued toward his house. He was so incredibly close, he was a 1/10 of a mile from home. There were credible witnesses on the street before his house, and a family was watching the fire from their car. Before they lost sight of Mark, they see a suspicious gray or silver vehicle. A female was driving, and a white male was on the passenger side, standing outside on the running board. As Mark was walking home, the man says something to Mark over the car's roof. The one witness had an uneasy feeling about this interaction, and they made a mental note of it. Unfortunately, at this time, there weren't any surveillance cameras in the area, so we have no footage of Mark. 3 weeks after Mark was last seen, police announced that they had questioned a person of interest, but could not conclusively link him to Mark's disappearance. They didn't release the person's name to the public, but stated that he was a 50-year-old Cape May County resident with a criminal record. Despite their initial interest in him, he was eventually cleared of any involvement and has never been mentioned again. The case quickly went cold. In December 1991, Friends of Mark was organized as a trust fund which accepted donations in an effort to offer a reward if Mark was found. In Atlantic City, a heavyweight boxer, Riddick Bowe, dedicated his bout against Elijah Tillery to Mark's return. Bowe wore Mark's picture on his boxing robe and trunks at the convention hall bout that an estimated 17 million viewers watched. Additionally, Bowe gave $15,000 to the reward fund, which brought the amount to $25,000 for Mark's safe return. A vigil was held for Mark on the 1-year anniversary of when he went missing. On the first anniversary of Mark's disappearance, 6 New Jersey state troopers assisted Middle Township Police at a checkpoint on Bayshore Road near Cape May County Park South, where Mark was last seen. Investigators decided to go back to the drawing board and were re-interviewing neighbors in hopes of someone coming forward with new information. They also released a composite sketch of the man that the people who had seen talking to Mark on the beach the day he vanished. That has been the most credible lead believed to be involved in the abduction of Mark Himebaugh. The sketch is the third sketch. 2 others were made based on what a couple of 10-year-old boys at the time had reported. Before continuing, I want to give a trigger warning of what's about to come. A graphic detailing is made about sexual abuse. Daniel Cole, a male sex worker, told police on the night of February 14, 1993, he was at Thomas Butkovich's apartment, a regular client of his. According to Cole, in an interview with NBC 10, Butkovich showed him a graphic video that left him traumatized to this day. Cole said in the video was a little boy who was shackled, handcuffed, and had a ball gag in his mouth. In the video, Butkovich sexually assaults the boy, and Cole is sure that the boy in the video is Mark Himebaugh. He said, quote, "I remember looking at the little boy's face and just the look in his eyes. I mean completely. You ever see fear? Just through the eyes. Man, the little boy was scared to death." End quote. Cole described the conversation between Butkovich and himself after he saw the video. According to Cole, quote, "I said, that looks like the little boy from South Jersey. Tommy told me it was him. He confessed to me and said it was him. I said, what did you do with him? He said, well, I did like I did the rest of them. I disposed them. What do you mean the rest of them? He said, well, I got 5 or 6 other kids I did." End quote. Cole was so upset that he contacted the police about his encounter and interactions with Butkovich the next day. Cole said Butkovich kept reassuring him, saying, I need you to help me get little kids. On June 23, 1993, the police released a new sketch composite of the potential suspect. He was described as a white male in his 20s with long, dark hair parted in the middle. He wore square-framed glasses and was believed to be driving a white compact car with a roof rack at the time Mark went missing. Witnesses placed Mark near this man's car shortly before he vanished. Now, it's important to point out that this sketch was made a year before it was released, and I'll explain why in a moment. In July of 1993, because of Cole's tip, investigators searched the Haverton, Pennsylvania residence of 27-year-old Thomas Butkovich in connection with Mark's disappearance. The videotape Cole reported wasn't found during the search, but he remained a person of interest. Butkovich denied any involvement in Mark's disappearance and was never charged in relation to the case. Butkovich did a polygraph and failed. Now, let's all remember not to take too much stock into this, especially since polygraphs are inadmissible in court. However, during the polygraph, Butkovich said that he fantasized about traveling up to 100 miles to kidnap, rape, and murder a young boy. He said he didn't understand the polygrapher's question and was thinking about his fantasy during the questioning, not about Mark. Now, the reason I said about the sketch is because when you look at Thomas Butkovich's mugshot and then you look at a side-by-side comparison of this sketch, you would have thought that the sketch was made directly off this mugshot. But it wasn't, because the sketch was done a year before this. It is so incredibly eerie how similar this sketch is. And I don't take a whole lot of stock into the sketches because 9 in 10 times, they don't ever really look like the actual person of interest, suspect, whatever you would like to call it. But in this particular case, it is absolutely wild. The sketch was made of a suspect, or a person of interest as they're calling it, but it looks identical to Butkovich. Does your furry friend deserve the best? Of course they do. That's why there's BoxDog, a seasonal box of premium products designed just for your pooch. With BoxDog, you can spoil your pet with a fun and exciting selection of high-quality items. From gourmet treats and chew toys to comfy apparel and unique accessories, BoxDog has it all. Each box is packed with hand-selected products guaranteed to wag tails and bring joy. But BoxDog isn't just about products. It's about providing a personalized experience for your pet. You can customize each box to suit your dog's specific needs and preferences, ensuring they get what they love every time. And the best part? BoxDog delivers straight to your door, making it a convenient and hassle-free way to keep your pet pampered. So why wait? Treat your dog to the luxury they deserve with BoxDog, because every dog deserves a box full of happiness. Order your BoxDog today. Go to boxdog.pxf.io/ccpod. That's boxdog.pxf.io/ccpod. Several different agency members made up a team for the case. A veteran skilled missing persons unit of investigators comprised of members from the Philadelphia Police Department, the Delaware County District Attorney's Office, New Jersey State Police, Haverton Township Police Department, and Middle Township detectives. They tried to place Butkovich in the area at the time. Nearly 6 years later, in 1998, Butkovich pleaded guilty to numerous sex crime charges involving 3 young boys in Chester County. He was sentenced to prison for 18 to 36 years for multiple counts of deviant sexual behavior of the 3 young boys. His max prison date is set till 2035. Butkovich has continued to deny involvement in Mark's case, but others have come forward, including friends, saying Butkovich had confessed to them as well. They couldn't quite place Butkovich there at the time, but they did find out that Butkovich had a male lover with a roommate, and the roommate was from Cape May County. Not only that, but the roommate's father was in the same barbershop quartet as Mark's father, Jody. So the police were able to make a very loose connection between Butkovich and Jody. They also found that Butkovich had a receipt for a computer repair shop with the date and time for a pickup of November 25th, 1991, pickup time 3 p.m. Unfortunately, they couldn't determine if 3 p.m. was when he picked it up or if that was a suggested time. If 3 p.m. was a suggested time and he was able to pick it up sooner, then he would have been able to make it to the area within the time frame. Over the years, investigators followed up on thousands of tips without making any significant progress in the case. In March of 1995, several reported sightings of Mark in Sacramento, California, prompted volunteers to post more than 4,000 missing persons flyers around the city in hopes of soliciting additional tips. Unfortunately, no more reports have come in, and the original sightings could not be verified. Over time, Mark's case faded from the headlines. Local newspapers run a short recap of the case each year on the anniversary of his disappearance. Despite the lack of progress, Maureen refused to give up on finding her son. She told Ana Garcia on True Crime Daily that she believes that Mark is deceased and that he is with her spiritually. She does have hopes that maybe Mark's case will be like J.C. Dugard's after all this time. In 2010, a call came into the Middle Township Police Department. The person claimed to be the son of a witness who saw what happened to Mark. The caller said a retired police officer ran Mark over and buried him on the side of Bayshore Road. According to retired detective Rich McHale, the second call came within a week or a month of the first one. In 2015, Middle Township Police Chief Lossner took the call to the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children to review the call with their analyst. They ended up broadcasting the call on TV in the Philadelphia area. No new leads came from this. It was determined to be a revenge type thing. That area had been extensively searched by foot, canine, and helicopter, and nothing ever came of it. Law enforcement has not given up hope in discovering what happened to Mark. Police and the FBI have begun using artificial intelligence services to help possibly crack the case. The hope is that AI can re-examine the evidence and find patterns that are not already apparent. Maureen is holding out hope that she will finally get answers after over 30 years. She says, quote, "I am still waiting and hoping. Not so much dreaming, but hoping that I'll get closure. That's what I really want." End quote. Daniel Cole is terminally ill and told NBC 10 he decided to speak publicly about Butkovich after seeing recent reports from NBC 10 about the case. Cole said, quote, "I've been in the grand juries. I've testified up in Camden for the feds. They need more people to come forward on this because he's there. People seen him there. I just need people to know the truth of Tommy Butkovich, you know?" End quote. Police are hoping to talk with people who may have seen Butkovich in Cape May County in the late 80s and early 90s. They also hope to speak with Cole again as the investigation continues. Investigators want to talk to anyone who was in the Delhaven area on November 25th, 1991, and are especially interested in any photos or videos of the brush fire. Regardless of it being more than 30 years, they believe this case can be solved and hope to get justice for Mark. Maureen wants justice and answers. She does believe that Mark's shoe was placed on the beach to throw the investigation. Thanksgiving is tough for her. She loved Thanksgiving. It's all about family. But now it makes her sad. Rich McHale was a patrolman of 3 years when Mark vanished. He got involved in the case when he became a detective in 1996. Rich McHale was a patrolman of 3 years when Mark vanished. He got involved in the case when he became a detective in 1996. Rich has advocated greatly for Mark's case and even wrote the book, Where is Mark? The Abduction of Mark Himebaugh. Sadly, Maureen has lived nearly 32 years without answers about what happened to her youngest son. Maureen spoke with 2 individuals in prison on 2 separate occasions about Mark's case. They said they would confess if the death penalty were taken off the table. Maureen would agree, But when it was time for them to confess, they didn't. It was all lies. At this time, Maureen still lives in the same house at 214 Sunray Road in Delhaven, New Jersey. However, as of Saturday, July 22nd, 2023, Maureen officially listed her home for sale. Anyone with information in regards to Mark's disappearance can call the Middle Township Police Department at 609-465-8700. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children can be called at 1-800-843-5678. That's 1-800-THE-LOST. Or you can contact Cape May County Prosecutors Office at 609-465-1135. You can also text TIPS space mtpdtips, all one word, to 888-777. There is a $10,000 reward for information leading to the closure of this case and a $30,000 reward for the safe return of Mark to Cape May County. Mark Himebaugh was an 11-year-old boy who went missing on November 25, 1991. He would have been 4 foot tall and about 85 pounds, with red hair, blue eyes, and a freckly face. He was last seen in the beachside community at a local park at approximately 4 p.m., wearing a blue sweatshirt, gray pants, a gray jacket, and white hand-me-down LA Gear sneakers. And that's the case of Mark Himebaugh. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Source material can be found in the show notes, and I will have all the numbers listed there for anyone to be able to reach out with information. Be sure to follow on Instagram at Crime Connoisseurs, and fill out the case suggestions forms by clicking the link in the bio if you have a case you'd like to be covered. In the meantime, keep it classy, connoisseurs, and I'll catch you on the next case. Are you tired of settling for subpar cat food? It's time to upgrade your cat's dining experience with Smalls, the ultimate gourmet meal for your feline companion. Say goodbye to generic one-size-fits-all cat food. With Smalls, you can rest assured that your furry friend is getting the nutrition they deserve. Join the thousands of cat owners who have made the switch to Smalls and see the difference it can make in your cat's health and happiness. Treat your cat to the finest dining experience with Smalls. Visit smalls.sjv.io/ccpod now to order your first box. That's smalls.sjv.io/ccpod. Choose Smalls because your cat deserves the best.